Hey, what's up guys? Kris here for Kriscoart Productions. Welcome to episode 3 of Film Basics. Today we talk about something that's very important for both still photographers and filmmakers out there, and that is depth of field.
Depth of field.
Now the easiest way to explain what depth of field is pretty much your zone of sharpness. Now that range can be changed. You can move it towards and away from your lens. You can make that range longer to get more things into focus, and you can make that range much shorter or shallower to get very minute details in focus while throwing everything else out of focus. The reason why depth of field is so important is because it allows you to literally guide your audience's eyes to different portions of the screen that you want them to pay attention to. Different depths of field can also evoke different types of emotions.
In this example, we have two people waving at each other, and both of them are in focus, and that is because we have a deep depth of field. Now in the second clip, nothing changes except for our depth of field. It's now more shallower, and our eyes are drawn to the person closer to the camera since everything else behind him is out of focus. Now this changes the feel of the shot almost entirely because now we see him much more separated from the other person in the scene, and this could mean some type of disconnection between the two characters. It also adds a little bit of mystery to the person in the background if we haven't introduced them yet. Now this is just one example of many, but you can start to see how depth of field is the opposite of coincidental, and it's very carefully planned out, and it can give a different tone and different feel to each one of your shots depending on how you use it.
Now there's three main elements that affect depth of field, and that is aperture, your focal length, and your subject distance to camera.
So at this point we understand how aperture affects depth of field. A large aperture, or a small f-stop number, will give you a more shallow depth of field, while a small aperture, or a large f-stop number, will give you a deeper depth of field. Now one thing that we haven't really talked about is how your focal length affects your depth of field. Now focal length is pretty much involved whenever you're swapping lenses out. So if you're going from a 50mm to a 100mm, you're changing your focal length. Whenever you're changing your focal length, the longer you set your focal length, the shallower your depth of field is going to be. So if I go from a 50mm lens to a 100mm lens, my depth of field is going to become much more shallower. And then finally, your subject distance to camera is very simple. The closer your subject is to camera, the shallower your depth of field becomes. By creatively manipulating these three elements to your advantage, you can evoke different emotions from your shots, making your visuals an element of the story. So to sum everything up, if you want to increase your depth of field, you need to narrow your aperture, so you need to pick a larger f-stop number. You can also move your subject further away from the camera, or you can shorten your focal length. And you can use a combination of all three to get an even deeper depth of field. But if you try to do the opposite, if you try to decrease your depth of field to make it more shallow, you want to widen your aperture, so you want to pick a smaller f-stop number. You want to move your subject closer to the camera, or you can increase your focal length.
Oh hey guys, thanks for liking my video. I love you guys. Subscribe now.
What he said. Alright guys, so this is the very first episode of this series. It's unit smoke like right now. It's 50. And honestly the difference isn't really that noticeable.